Psychology has always had this giant, fascinating puzzle at its core. Our minds, all our thoughts, our feelings, our memories, they're completely invisible. So, how in the world do you scientifically study something you literally can't see? That one question, well, it was a huge challenge for the field for a very long time. I mean, this was the central problem for the first psychologists. The mind was pretty much a black box. You know something's happening in there, but you can't just pop it open and take a look. Think about it. You see someone crying. Are they sad? In pain? Maybe they're even crying from pure joy. We can see the behavior, the tears, but the reason behind it is totally hidden from view. For centuries, really, it was philosophers who focused on this internal world. You've probably heard René Descartes' famous line, "I think, therefore I am." It perfectly sums up this private, subjective experience. It's all about what's going on inside your own head. But for science, well, while that's incredibly profound, it's not quite enough to build on. And that's because science has this one fundamental rule. You need evidence. You need something you can observe, something you can measure, and something you can repeat. In psychology, just like any other science, saying, "I just know it," doesn't fly. You've got to be able to show the data. So this demand for hard data led to a massive shift in psychology. A totally revolutionary new approach came along, with a really clever solution to that black box problem. The idea was, hey, if you can't study the mind directly, let's study the next best thing, behavior. So instead of trying to dig into the unconscious mind like the psychodynamic approach did, this new school of thought called behaviorism came along, and it basically proposed, let's just sidestep the mind completely. Let's focus exclusively on what people and animals actually do. And that's the core idea of behaviorism, pushed forward by people like John B. Watson and B.F. Skinner. The premise is actually really simple. You can't objectively study a thought, right? But you can objectively study an action. This simple switch made psychology a much more rigorous, observable science. Okay, so how much can we really learn just from watching what people do? As it turns out, a whole lot. And one of the most famous experiments in all of psychology shows just how powerful this approach can be. Let's dive into Albert Bandura's classic Bobo doll experiment. Bandura wanted to find out if complex behaviors, like aggression, could be learned just by watching somebody else do it. And his test subjects? A group of young children. The setup was just beautiful in its simplicity. Here's how it worked. A child would watch an adult in a room with this big inflatable clown doll they called Bobo. Some of the kids saw the adult play quietly with other toys, ignoring the doll. But other kids saw the adult just attack the doll, punching it, kicking it, even grabbing a toy mallet and whacking it. Then, the adult would leave, and the child was left all alone in the room with Bobo. So what do you think happened next? The results were, honestly, groundbreaking. The children's actions gave a crystal clear, undeniable window into their minds. It revealed exactly what they had learned just by watching. The kids who saw the aggressive adult didn't just become a little more aggressive. They copied the exact behaviors they had just seen. They punched Bobo, they kicked Bobo, and, yep, they picked up that same toy mallet and used it on the doll. They had learned totally new, specific, aggressive actions just from observation alone. This incredibly powerful process is called observational learning. It shows us that we don't always need a reward or a punishment to learn something new. Sometimes all we have to do is watch someone else, what we'd call a social model, and we can pick up some pretty complex behaviors. That experiment is a perfect snapshot of the core idea. But here's the thing. This isn't just for psychologists in a lab. We use this principle every single day of our lives. We watch people's actions to try and figure out what they're thinking, to understand their personalities. To do this scientifically, psychologists use something called operational definitions. Now that sounds complicated, but it's not. It just means they translate a fuzzy, abstract idea, a conceptual variable like aggression, into a concrete, measurable action. So aggression becomes the number of seconds someone honks their car horn. Interpersonal attraction becomes the number of inches a person places their chair away from someone else. It's all about turning the conceptual into the countable. And like I said, this is something we all do, not just psychologists. The formal name for it is causal attribution. We are constantly observing what people do and trying to figure out the why behind it. We're all basically everyday scientists, trying to learn about the people all around us. Seriously, think about it. You see someone leave a massive 50% tip for their server, your brain immediately starts trying to figure out why. We can't help it. We are wired to find explanations. Is this person just incredibly generous? Well, that's an internal, personality-based reason. Or was the service just absolutely incredible? That would be an external, situational reason. Every single day, with every action we see, we're running these little mental experiments, trying to decode the people in our world. So let's bring this all back home. From the science lab to our day-to-day lives, our actions are constantly sending out signals, revealing clues about us. And that is the absolute key insight here. While we may never be able to directly see a thought, our observable behaviors, everything from who we copy to how close we stand to someone, they provide a clear, powerful, and scientific window straight into the mind. So let's just quickly recap. We started with the problem of the invisible mind, and we saw how focusing on what we can see, on behavior, helped turn psychology into a real science. We saw hard proof in experiments like the Bobo doll study, which showed that we learn all sorts of complex things just by watching. And we saw how both scientists and, well, all of us, translate abstract ideas into concrete actions to better understand each other. It's a really fascinating lens to turn on your own life. From the way you act when you're stuck in traffic to your little habits at the coffee shop, every single action is a piece of data. So the question is, what does your everyday behavior reveal about what's going on inside your mind?